If you're a Liverpool fan, you may or may not want to stick around because we're about to throw some salt in your wounds. Let's talk about Liverpool's rough patch that we've seen. It's their first time losing 3 consecutive games in all competitions since 2023. They're the first Premier League defending champions to lose multiple games in the 90th minute in a 7-day span. And then, of course, their 2 most expensive signings in history, Wirtz and Alexander Isak, not quite having that big instant impact that we were hoping for. All right, let's get straight into what on earth is going wrong with Liverpool and Arne Slot right now. We've also got our Frank Leboeuf joining us, as well as Beth Lindup, because there's a lot to talk about, guys. And I'm going to start with you, Beth, because you're closest there to the action. And like I said, we're all scratching our heads after great recruitment from Liverpool. It was all starting so well for Arne Slot. How and why has it fallen off?
Well, that is the million-dollar question, and I think one that Arne Slot himself will be looking to solve over this international break. I think ultimately it's multiple factors, really. I mean, you mentioned the recruitment there. And on paper, Liverpool signed a lot of great players, obviously spent a lot of money, but they are a team now in transition. And you know, people might take issue with that and say, well, you shouldn't be in transition if you've spent all of this money. But ultimately, they've had to replace sort of 4 or 5 starters with 4 or 5 new players. And regardless of how good those players are, it does still take time to adapt and for players to find their feet. So I think that's one part of it. I think another part is that the existing players, the likes of Mo Salah, the likes of Ibrahim Konate, players who've been stalwarts of this team for several years now, are performing way below their usual level. And I think, you know, that the undercurrent to all of this is that it's been a very, very difficult summer for the club. And, you know, Virgil van Dijk came out after the game on Saturday and said, you know, we always knew this was going to be a difficult season. And he got a little bit of criticism from some quarters of the Liverpool fan base, actually saying, you know, maybe that's an excuse and it was not something that they talked about when they were winning games. But I think ultimately this season will be tough for these players because obviously of the loss of Diogo Jota in the summer. And I think that when we're sort of assessing what's gone wrong for Liverpool, I think that always has to be at the back of everyone's minds, like it or not. That is going to affect these players in this team. But there is obviously more of a tactical issue and more of a personnel issue, and those are the things that the Arne Slot will be looking to solve in time for that Manchester United game after the international break.
99% of players, when things are not going well for them, we understand that at the very least we work hard. But he seems to be walking around in a daze. I mean, those breaks that Craig was talking about with Cucurella, he's not even thinking about Cucurella. And why is that? It cannot be that he doesn't get it, he doesn't understand it. And there's certainly no way that Arne Slot is not telling him that, you know, you're going to have to keep an eye on Cucurella because he wants to get forward. So right now, I'm going to be kind to Mo Salah and say that we can call it lack of confidence, we can call it what we want, but right now, his head is scrambled because he's not seen the picture. He's not seen the clear picture.
Well, you be kind to him, I'm not, because he is seeing the picture of the full-back running forward. And Maresca and Chelsea must have looked at the other Liverpool games and went, he's going to cheat, he's not bothered about running back. So when we win it, I want you, Cucurella, to get on your front foot and drive forward, because we'll have a 2-on-1 down that side. I don't care who he is. I don't care what his stats say. I don't care how much he's getting paid. I don't care if he's the talisman of Liverpool over however many years. I don't care. Liverpool, performance-wise, not in terms of points, but performance-wise, have been struggling since the Community Shield, if we're being honest. Into the Bournemouth game, into all the other league games. These defeats have been coming. And you cannot have people in your side, particularly when the balance of your side is struggling, as the midfield is, particularly when you've got 2 new fullbacks and your back 4 struggling. You can't have people just letting players run off them. You can't have it. That's down to work rate and desire. Now, if his form going forward continues in the manner in which it has been, and his lack of defensive duties continue in the manner that we saw at Chelsea at the weekend, he's going to have to be dropped. It'll have to be. They'll have to find somebody that hasn't got the skill set of Mo Salah, but is at least going to put a shift in and come back and help the fullback. That's kind of where he is.
You know, the other worry would be nobody on the field is holding him accountable.
Yep.
If I'm
Mo
playing,
Salah.
I think Szoboszlai had
Tough conversation to have.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not a tough conversation. Him and I, you don't care who it is, Stevie.
no, it doesn't matter who it is. If there's any sign that they're not doing it, or it looks as though that the effort's not there, there should be 2 and 3 players on his back telling him to get back in. But there's clearly not. You know, if I'm playing in the centre of midfield, or if I'm playing full-back, and the guy in front of me isn't balling to run back, the first thing I'm doing, the first chance I get, I'm getting my finger right in his face, and I'm telling him exactly what he needs to do. That is another concern, that on the field, with so many so-called experienced and world-class players, nobody's holding anybody accountable.
I don't know if anybody else did. I think Szoboszlai did have at least 1 or 2 pops at him in the first half in that match at the weekend at London. He's clearly captain of his country, experienced player, blah, blah, blah. Frank, what do you think about this work rate from Mo Salah, just looking at that clip?
Well, 2 points. The thing is, I'm wondering if last year, when Liverpool were most dominant and were having the ball most of the time, if Mo Salah had to run back to get to follow the player and the opponent, the fullback. I'm not sure that he always did that in his career. We have to check if on his prime, where he was absolutely fantastic last season, if he had to run back, and maybe if he could save that because people were saving him. Now, because they're less dominant, we see clearly that if he doesn't run back, he's putting his teammate in a big mess. But I'm pretty sure last season he didn't do that. I'm pretty sure the season before he didn't do that as well. And another thing, he, if I'm not mistaken, he signed a new contract. And we said last season, what's going to be the Salah next season when we talked about it? Will it be nice for Liverpool? Will it be a good idea for Liverpool to sign a new contract to Mo Salah? Everybody was saying that it's impossible to not sign him because he's such a fantastic player. But because of his age, is he capable of running back? Because of his age, because he want to save things to score goals. Do you remember that when Wirtz came in and gave him the assist in the beginning of second half, how he missed that pass, that goal? Sorry, and that was clear for me that he was already tired because Mo Salah last year would have scored that goal. So I don't know, I have question marks more than saying that he's guilty for not running back. I'm not sure. Maybe you have better answers, guys.
This isn't a sort of pile on in Liverpool. This is we all did the Community Shield, and we were going, right, there's going to be some teething issues and blah blah blah. You know, new players. Arsenal have brought new players in. Most teams do bring new players in, but it's not just the new players. It's the sort of changing dynamic of the team, trying to go to Florian Wirtz, who didn't start this game as a number 10. But it isn't a Liverpool pile-on. It's a kind of look at the issues that Arne Slot has got coming up after the international break. The selection problems, the problems with the personnel in the team, the problem with playing Szoboszlai at right back again for part of this game and for the bulk of the game in Galatasaray. All these sort of issues. Steve and I were talking, does Kerkez remain in the team, or do you take him out and put Robertson in and just give the lad a breather? Because
you have to question, are they being told to stay in a certain position? Are they being told that, forget that, the first man closes the ball and then everybody else files in behind? I mean, you have to question, what is Arne Slot telling them? Because, again, we're not just talking about Chelsea. We're talking about, since the start of the season, there have been holes. Yeah. So you have to question what Arne Slot is telling them.
It's a great squad, isn't it? It is a great squad, and they can be a terrific team, as they showed at times last year. It kind of fell away towards the end. It certainly fell away in Europe. They have lots to look forward to. But I'm just going to be super interested how he's going to solve all these issues. The work rate and the form of your star player. The midfield, is it Wirtz in or Wirtz out? I don't think you can play him on the left. Is it you're dropping Ekitike effectively. Well, he got suspended for the Palace game. But you're bringing in Alexander Isak. He's the star signing. But Ekitike's arguably been your best player. And that's before you get to the back four. So Liverpool at the moment are just too easy to play against.
Well, Beth, let me bring you back in, but specifically on the Mo Salah discussion that the boys are having here right now. And of course, you guys have done a deep dive into his stats on ESPN.com, and there is quite a remarkable drop-off. And people can say maybe that could be down to the fact that, look, he's 33 years old, these things happen. But what about the work rate? And if what the boys have been saying about Salah is being echoed in Liverpool, in the media, in the public, in the fans?
Yeah, well, I think it was a really important point that Frank made, because actually I don't think the work rate is a new thing. I think, Mo Salah he's always been someone who's been accused at times of maybe not tracking back as much, but because the numbers and his output going forward has been so strong, it's almost like a fair trade-off. And there was actually a conversation last season between Salah and Arne Slot when Slot first came into the club, and Slot basically said to him, I'm going to give you a little bit more license, but I need for you to deliver. And he did. He scores 34 goals in all competitions last season. He has one of his best seasons in a Liverpool shirt. So actually, him not tracking back, him conserving that energy to be able to go forward and attack and deliver worked out for Liverpool. This season, it's not a trade-off that is working for them, because he's not contributing defensively, but his output going forward is nowhere near what it was last season. And the numbers in terms of, I think it's 11 shots he's had across the 7 games this season, which is half the amount of shots he had at the same point last season. So he's not getting into the right positions as he was last season. When he is getting into those positions, he's being wasteful. So he does very much look like a player who is having a bit of a crisis of confidence. And again, just to bring it back to the difficult summer part, and that obviously doesn't absolve Salah of all responsibility, because he's a top professional and he will want to be delivering better than he is. But it's only a few weeks ago that he was stood on the pitch at Anfield crying in front of the fans, and I do think that when you look at the squad as a whole and the players that have been affected by the summer, I think Salah is probably right up there for players who is struggling with it. He bit back at some supporters on social media a few weeks ago because they were criticising Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz. That's not what Mo Salah usually does. So I think there is maybe a bit of a wider issue there in terms of his confidence, which isn't helping with his form. But I also don't think as well, going back to what the guys were saying about the space in midfield, I think last season, Dominic Szoboszlai, Ryan Gravenberch and Alexis McAllister started 28 games together last season as a midfield three. And I think that was integral to everything that Liverpool did going forward, and defensively too. They had a real good balance. And I think this season, McAllister looks way off the pace. He missed a lot of pre-season with an injury. Dominic Szoboszlai has been going to right back. So that midfield three has only actually started together twice this season. And I don't think that's helping the players in front of them. And I don't think it's helping the players behind them. So I think at the minute, getting that midfield balance right is probably one of the most important things that Arne Slot needs to get sorted out.
I mean, trade-offs are good, as Beth said. Yep. Trade-offs are good terminology. Aye. The trade-off only works when you're, as Beth said, when you're playing well and you're delivering and your team are not struggling. Yep. And as I said, Liverpool are not struggling for points because they've racked up a fair amount of points. But I don't think anybody would deny they've been struggling for performance by their standards. And also the other side of it is how easy they've been to play against. Almost every team they've played could have bagged 3 or 4 against them. Racking my brains to think about all the games this early in the season. And it's very similar in terms of, you're talking about a trade-off. It was very similar with Trent Alexander-Arnold. The trade-off was, he's going to switch off defensively, he's going to go to sleep, he's not going to tuck in maybe at the right time and help out at the back post, but my God, he's going to give you the range of passing and the free kicks, the set pieces, the goals from that right back position. That was the trade-off. And it's very similar for Mo Salah. But this is I think when Mo Salah looks at himself, he's going to say, okay, what do we need? What does this team, what does this manager need at the moment? He needs to not have a passenger, any passengers. And so whether this is, and I agree, he's always been a little bit on the cheaty side coming back, but Liverpool have been pretty successful. As soon as you're under pressure, and as soon as your manager's tinkering and you've got these new players, you have to change. It doesn't matter if you're 33 or 29, you have to change. And that change is work rate.
And all these trade-offs only work when, depending on which part of the field it is, somebody is covering for the trade-off. And right now, Kanate in particular, who was covering for Alexander-Arnold and did a fantastic job, right now can't tie his shoelaces together properly. I mean, he can't. He's not defending well. He's not passing the ball well. You know, the guy is struggling big time. And then if you take a step forward into the middle of the park, Ryan Gravenberch, who was the guy again who would cover the space that Mo Salah wasn't getting back into, he's struggling as well. McAllister hasn't been fit all season. So everywhere you look, they're struggling. And I think, again, it's easy to look at the new players and say what they're not doing. But at the end of the day, the only way the new players are going to fit in properly and get in tune with everybody is when your core guys are running the show. Your core guys, your Van Dijks and Konatés at the back, your McAllister and your Gravenberch in the middle that allows Szoboszlai to get forward. These guys, these guys I've mentioned are the platform for Mo Salah to go and score all these goals, or for Isak to get opportunities, or Ekitike. But right now, the core guys are absolutely miles off what they should be doing and what they've done previously. And so all your stars up the top of the field are going to struggle regardless of what their own form is anyway.
Well, the good news for Liverpool is that they do have to play Manchester United next. And if there were ever a game that you need a big result from, it may be that one. Frank, we actually are coming to you on Chelsea, but did you want final word on Liverpool?
No, yeah, maybe. I think it's quite miraculous if we listen to each other and see what Liverpool has done so far. It's quite miraculous to be second with 15 points and have won some games, because we are criticizing a team with second in the league, have been champion last season, and we can say, but can we say it that the champion can be in transition? Some players are struggling, the former players, Van Dijk, Konaté, Mo Salah, McAllister. Some others are coming to settle down, and they're still second with 15 points. So, yeah, it's not going that bad for Liverpool, and I would say that it's going quite good. I want to be positive. I want to see the half-ball tail filled up, because it's quite good. 15 points with that amount of criticism and those things not working, players not being good like the past, some others coming in not settled down. That's pretty awesome for on the slot. Well done, my man. No, but of course we want to see better, because we expect much better.
Well, I think, Frank, you're absolutely right. But I think there is a big picture here, and there's a long game. It's a bit like Barcelona in a sense, who got absolutely walloped by Sevilla at the weekend, who also sit second in the league and lost 4 goals, could have lost 7 or 8. And I kind of liken that to Liverpool in the sense that it's been coming. The Barcelona shellacking has been coming. Because defensively, they've been all over the place. They haven't got as many problems as Liverpool in terms of the midfield and the front line, but they've certainly got some defensive issues. And I think the point is with Liverpool is we're expecting them to be in a toe-to-toe fight with Arsenal and maybe City. But I think the bigger picture here is not to pick apart their games and the fact that they've got 15 points or whatever it is, but it's to say if they continue to play in that manner, it is very unlikely that they'll be even in a title race come the end of the season, unless the others fall off a cliff too. Because you can't keep performing and leaving the space that we've talked about, having the work rate and the lack of form and the lack of cohesion and all these difficulties in do I play Florian Wirtz or whatever it is. These problems have got no shelf life over the space of another, 30 games or so? So it has to figure that out, otherwise they will not be unlikely, that is, to be in the title race come the late stages of the season. That's kind of where we're hedging our bets.
The goal that he was scoring, maybe Denis Wife could have scored those goals, but Claude Makelele and N'Golo Kanté were very defensive. They scored goals. And N'Golo Kanté scored a magnificent goal against Liverpool. But it was more like accidental. We can feel that Caicedo can project himself offensively and also be effective. But remember the first season where we were wondering, 100 million, is he worth it? But now it was more than that, even double of that, because that guy gives such a work, a business in the middle of the park, that for the others, it's simpler, it's easier. And again, we go back to that generation of fantastic midfielders, defensive midfielders, with Dennis, Wisey, our captain, Craig and I, but Claude Makelele and N'Golo Kanté. Now we have Caicedo, those fantastic players who give their lives every game, and with a feeling, with an art. Because, you know, we used to call them water carrier. Before, they were in the shade of the others and everything. They were the bad people, you know, destroying. David Batty, the fantastic Roy Keane. But those players are completely essentials to a team. And they are really the wall, the fixed wall, the best wall to make sure that the team's going to work. And Caicedo is showing that to the world. And it's why I wanted to say something about him, because I mean, what I saw against Liverpool, but throughout the season and a half that he had before, that's absolutely exceptional.
I think Frank, I might be right in saying Frank just called Roy Keane a water carrier.
I was thinking that. I thought it was a bit harsh.
To be fair to Roy, I think there was a few more facets to his game than that. But I know what you mean. He was a guy that did a bit of everything. Caicedo, don't forget he struggled when he first came in. But it was a difficult side to come into, because it was, you know, there was a lot of changes at Chelsea, a lot of young players, and it was a transfer merry-go-round. It was a squad merry-go-round. But I think for those that saw him at Brighton, knew he was a very, very good player. Liverpool tried to sign him and Lavia. Yep. Lavia's had more sort of injury issues. But Caicedo just looks, he is a little every now and again he'll do some rash things in terms of making challenges that he's never going to win. But in terms of his all-round game, you know, nicking balls away, tracking runners, you know, getting across and reading the game, he really, and you know, forget his goal. His goal was brilliant, but he's not going to do that every week. His general reading of the game is just getting better and better and better.
Yeah, but as Craig pointed out, it took Caicedo even some time to settle in at Chelsea. Throwing it back to Liverpool now, do you think that it's just going to take a bit more time for Florian Wirtz to settle in there? Just should we have patience, or are there some real concerns about where he can fit in?
Generally at Liverpool that there's no concerns at all. I think ultimately, you know, you pay that money for a player because there's hope that in the end they've got the quality to come good, and that's proven true with Moises Caicedo. And as Craig said, obviously Liverpool were really keen on him. They had a bid accepted by Chelsea and ultimately by Brighton, and ultimately the player decided that he wanted to go to Chelsea. He'd given them his word, and I think now you look at this Liverpool team and you think they could really, really benefit from having a Moises Caicedo in that team, a bit more of a robust sort of destroyer, but with that ability on the ball as well. I think if you put Moises Caicedo into this Liverpool team at the moment, they'd look an awful lot stronger. But yeah, I think it's probably a lesson to all of us that, you know, when these players come for a lot of money, they don't have a say in their price tag, and ultimately, you know, they just come, and it's still hard no matter how much, you know, you pay for them. They still have to adapt to a new team. You know, Florian Wirtz has come into a new country, to a new league, so it does take time to adapt, and ultimately sort of cream rises to the top, doesn't it? You know, more times, more often than not. And I think that is obviously what we've seen with Caicedo, and I think at Liverpool there is hope that Florian Wirtz will do the same.
Stevie, you just as confident as Beth and Liverpool in Florian Wirtz?
Right now?
As she said, cream rises to the top.
I would say I'm probably on the verge of agreeing. But listen, no goals and no assists in 9 games for, 125 million? It's not a great start. He clearly is talented, but right now I'm a little hesitant.
I think timing for him is an issue. Obviously, he can't, you know, if this same player had walked into this Liverpool team last summer, we'd probably have seen a different player, because, you know, Beth talked about the midfielders. You know, there's absolutely no doubt that Gravenberch and McAllister, for different reasons, but I've never seen McAllister give the ball away, play as many sloppy passes as I've seen in the last couple of weeks. But I think for Florian Wirtz, it would have been much easier coming in had it been the form last year of McAllister and Gravenberch, or Szoboszlai. And he came in as a number 10, and Liverpool had a great shape, and they were controlling the tempo of a game. They're not doing that now. They're not controlling it. They're not passing. Stevie talked about the passing at the start of the show. They're not passing it particularly well. They're panicking at the back. They're not controlling the midfield. And so when you come in as a playmaker, and you don't have that element of control, then it can be difficult. And I think that's where they are, that juxtaposition at the moment of how do we get control of the midfield, and in games where other teams probably have 3 in there, and get Florian Wirtz into the team. That's the sort of million-dollar question. We're going to find out after this international break, because they have Manchester United. It's always, no matter United State, it's always a big game. What way does he go? Because he played his cards at Chelsea with Wirtz on the bench, didn't work. What's he going to do in the United game? That's going to be the thinking. Arne Slot will not be caring about these internationals. No. He's just thinking now, how am I going to get this team sorted, get all my players back, hopefully they're not injured, all coming back. What's my best 11 for the United game? Because if we're being honest, he does not know his best 11 at the moment.
Let's have a look at the top of the La Liga standings. As you can see, Real Madrid just out in front after Barcelona gave them some breathing space there for the lead after getting walloped, as Craig said, by Sevilla at the weekend. And we're going to talk about Real Madrid. And Craig, I definitely want to start with you on this one because it's about Jude Bellingham. This conversation that has slightly been floating around, especially now that we know that Thomas Tuchel has not called him up for this international break for England. So now that means that Xabi Alonso...
I think that's more to do with his lack of game time.
Yeah. But now that Xabi Alonso has this time to kind of work with him a bit, kind of around 2 weeks. So hopefully that does help. But when he does come back, where does he fit into this Real Madrid team?
Well, there's nobody else there for him to work with. So what I mean, most of those players will be away in international duty. I don't know.
Where he fits in?
If you ask me, well, where he fits in, his best position is the most forward of the midfield. That's where, when Kroos and whoever it was that was there, Fede Valverde, when he had that magnificent 6 months, that's where his best position was. Now, he got shunted from pillar to post last year as they tried to find the balance with Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Junior. But if you're asking me, is Jude Bellingham a shoe-in the Real Madrid side, the answer is no. The answer is no, and if we're being honest about it, this is not down to his shoulder surgery in the summer. His form, he's been struggling for form. He hasn't been the only one at Real Madrid, but he's been struggling for form for quite some time, for club and country. So I don't know. I mean, you've got Mastantuono now in there. You've got Arda Güler who's thrown their hat in the ring. So I think for Jude Bellingham, he may have to accept that unless he's bang in form. I don't know about you, Stevie, but I don't know if he's a shoe-in week in, week out.
If I'm coaching Real Madrid, look, there's no question Alonso made a mistake playing him against Real Madrid.
Atleti.
After he had 20 minutes of football.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous decision.
Yes.
And I was absolutely shocked. But we're talking about a guy who can transform a game on his own, who can get that goal.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing that.
But I know he wasn't.
He did it in his first year, not in his second.
But I would suggest that the way to get him doing it is not by having him sat on his backside. I think Bellingham, to me, is in a position where he's got money in the bank. I think he's got money in the bank. If Jude Bellingham plays the next 4 games, let's say, and performs the way he's done the last 6 months, then I think you can start asking questions of, well, should you start him? But right now...
I agree with that.
Right now, he has to get in the team, get 100% fit, and then, if things are not working out, then you have to make a decision. But if I'm coaching Real Madrid, I'm absolutely 100% starting Jude Bellingham.
Oh, I agree with that. I'm not saying next time Real Madrid plays not playing. What I'm saying is that if his form continues to sort of flatline, he's not a shoe-in. Yeah. Stevie said if it's 4 or 5 games, there are others that will come in, and Xabi Alonso's already shown that he'll pretty much drop anybody apart from Kylian Mbappe. He will, and he'll have to if he wants to save his bacon. But if Jude Bellingham gets himself match fit again and starts being this goal threat and all the things that we know he can be, it's not a problem. But if he's kind of the player that we've seen over the last, before the injury, and certainly for the bulk of last year, I think he could find him. It's not like he's going to walk in chest puffed out going, there's no way you can drop me. His form hasn't been good enough pre-shoulder surgery to suggest that he's undroppable.
Frank, what do you make of what the boys are saying about Jude?
Well, I agree with the guy. I just say that he plays for the biggest club in the world, maybe, and nobody can be insured to be played week in, week out, and to be picked by the coach any time, not even depending on the way you are playing your games. And it's true that Jude Bellingham hasn't been Jude Bellingham for more than 6 months, on top of having his injury. So it shouldn't be a problem for the coach to say, well, you know what, Arda Güler is better right now, so I'm going to play Arda Güler. If I need Arda Güler in the middle of the park and put Rodrigo on the right side, I shouldn't have any problem. You play for Real Madrid, but I pick, I decide. I always say that. I said that I was last year a little bit disappointed by Carlo Ancelotti because he didn't make those decisions. And Xabi Alonso showed to Vinicius Junior that he was capable of doing that, so he's going to be capable of doing that to Jude Bellingham. And I think to Kylian Mbappe, if Kylian is not fit and is not good. So that's a good thing, that's a good sign if when you move forward. And it's not because you are Jude Bellingham that should be insured like anybody else, ready to play. We saw Valverde as well on the bench. So it shouldn't be a problem, it shouldn't be even wondering. It's up to Jude to do the job, because we know that if he plays like he used to play the first year that he played for Real Madrid, nobody can be at his position, that's for sure. He's the best player in the world in that position when he's 100% fit.
You know, the thing is, for Xabi Alonso, what he does know, like, if we're talking about Jude Bellingham getting dropped, then Jude Bellingham's dad will be on the bat phone. He'll be on the bat phone to Xabi Alonso, because we know he's a bit of
He'll go to the dressing room,
yeah,
as
well,
we know.
That was ridiculous. But yeah, look, Real Madrid don't have another player of his like. They've got tricky little Güler and Mastertuano and all these, but they don't have a player with his physical power and running abilities and getting on the end of stuff. He's just going to somehow get back to that. The decision, whoever it was, to not have him have the shoulder surgery at the end of the season because of that stupid Club World Cup, where he would have had the surgery, the rehab, and the pre-season ready to go, because he wasn't in great form.
Yeah.
And you've got to give him the best chance. Just a ridiculous decision.
All right, well, Xabi Alonso has some things to think about. Thankfully, he has this international break, but when he's back, Real Madrid will be in action on Sunday against Getafe. That game will be on ESPN, as well as Barcelona, who played the day before, that Saturday, the 18th, and that's against Girona. Oh, tripping over my words there. I know. Well, let's look at the bottom half of the Premier League standings, and we're going to talk about Nottingham Forest, because they are languishing there in 17th place, just hovering above the relegation zone. They actually have played more games than they have points after finishing last season in 7th place. They were going so well, but then we do know how things work at Nottingham Forest, don't we? And we're going to try and make sense of it. Now we're going to bring back in Beth. Beth, why exactly did Forest even get rid of Nuno, even though we knew that the relationship with the owner and Nuno was getting very toxic at the end? But he did almost get them into the Champions League last season, and that shows remarkable progress for them.
Most bizarre managerial decisions that as we've seen in the Premier League in recent years. And as you say, the main factor behind that decision, I think, came from the tension between Nuno and the owner Marinakis. I think, it's been clear for quite a while that things weren't good between them, and I think, when Nuno came out and publicly admitted that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, really. And yeah, I think it's a shame for Forest fans, because it was an excellent season for them last season. There was such a tough team to beat. It was such a tough place to go. It was such an exciting campaign for them. It looked for the majority of the season that they were going to get in the Champions League. Now, obviously, they fell just short in the end, but still, they're back in Europe. They're in the Europa League. It should be a really, really exciting time for them. And I think, at the moment, they've got, fans in the stands singing that they want Postecoglou sacked, and that is, when you look at where they were sort of 6 months ago, it was sort of inconceivable to think that they would be in this kind of position. So yeah, it's a really, really baffling decision. Nuno obviously is now at West Ham, and there's still obviously a lot of work to do there, but you wouldn't be surprised if you know, judging by what he's done previously at Wolves in particular and at Forest, he's able to turn them into a really solid team. And Forest at the moment, obviously not doing particularly well under Postecoglou. It's very difficult to see where they go forward from here, because it certainly seems like the fans aren't very happy with the decision to let Nuno go.
I sent one of my mates in Nottingham a text yesterday, actually. He said, "Big Ange, yeah." I did the old shoulder shrug emoji. And I was looking for a bit of a response from him, see because he's a big season ticket holder, and he just sent me the shrug shoulders emoji back. So I don't know what that means, whether, you know, should we not be asking questions, although some of the fans have been singing about him being sacked, or is it, are they saying it's too early, or what? But, you know, we talked about this. When you bring managers into a football club, you have to bring somebody in that has, unless you're trying to change everything, you have to bring somebody in who has a way of working with a certain group of players. And we all sat here, Stevie and myself, Shaq, Ali, whoever it was, and said, Frank, we said, we have the most harem-scarum manager that the Premier League has seen for many a year. And boy, it was exciting at Spurs for 6 months. It was super exciting. And then they fell off the edge of a cliff with no parachute. He's gone into this side that did brilliantly on organisation. Pacey wide players, and Chris Wood up front having the time of his life. Two big centre-halves that would head a brick away. And you bring a manager in that wants to go completely a different way. Well, that's fine, but then you have to give him time. And you show me any club that has Greek ownership, because if you look at the teams in the Greek league, you know, Panathinaikos, AEK, all these teams, they hire and fire like that. These owners, they just don't suffer. And I just don't see how this is a marriage that's going to work. And I think it's clear early on, he's trying to change the team, and they're not capable of doing that. How they got results, Stevie, was organisation and structure.
Yeah.
Right.
Diggers in midfield, Pacey in the wide, and a back four that wanted to defend. A keeper that was actually playing well in cells. I just don't see how they're going to get results with this manager.
They went from a coach that didn't leave any holes, any gaps,
To all the holes now.
to a coach who wasn't worried about leaving gaps.
Door.
And so,
It's crazy.
I mean, if you want to confuse your players, you know, you've got a group of players who have spent the last 18 months every day in training, every time they step on the field, this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do, this is where you need to be. Get the balls away, we're doing shape, we're doing defensive work, you need to be covering him. To a coach who's the complete opposite. Forget all that, let's get the balls out and enjoy ourselves. It was never going to work in a million years. And if you think you can make it work overnight, then again, you've the proof's in the pudding. Just have a look at Forest players. They look during the game as if they're unsure of what to do. And that's down to the manager. That's down to the owner, who has brought in a manager who's made them unsure. And so you're going to lose games.
And it's not just
guess what? They're losing games.
And it's not just going to affect the team and the club. It's going to affect Postecoglou, because if this continues, he'll get sacked. He'll fire him if this continues. And his stock is just plummeted. And I think it's sometimes managers tend to rush into the wrong jobs. They come out a big job, and they take the first thing that comes along in a big league. I'm sure maybe there was one or two others, but the first thing in the big league again. And it's not always the right thing to do. I remember back to David Moyes when he left Manchester United, right? And, you know, he wasn't given much of a crack at the whip, but they decided to sack him. In no particular order, he jumped into Real Sociedad, he jumped into Sunderland. These were just poison chalices, particularly Sunderland. And your stock just plummets from there. Now, he resurrected that, obviously, did a fantastic job at West Ham and now at Everton. But at one point you thought, where's David Moyes going to go from Sociedad to Sunderland and sacked there? And when you make these decisions, and Forest are a good club,
it's ego,
but it's the wrong fit at the wrong time. If he walked into a Forest team that was set up to play that way, I could understand it.
You have to think Ange's ego got involved.
Yeah.
Because if you play, and he told us often enough and long enough, this is how I play the game and I'm not changing.
Yeah.
His ego must have taken over when he was offered this job. I could do this. I'm going to show them that I can do this. Well, right now he's not.
Well, I suppose it's hard to blame him there when, you know, he came under so much criticism at Spurs. He said he was brought in to win a trophy and he ended up winning a trophy. So, Frank, how long? I know what you're thinking. Frank, how long do you think Ange is going to last?
Not long. If he carries on like that, I don't give him a bright future. That's for sure. But you know, I want to gossip. I want to know what exactly happened between the owner and Nuno, because it doesn't make any sense to me. What Nuno did to Wolves and then last year with Nottingham, even if you can stand him, you cannot stand the guy, you keep the guy, because what he did is exceptional. And as Stevie alluded, you don't go to the opposite. So I don't know why you want to go to the opposite. So yeah, Ange, I think, rushed into another job, and I think it's a real mistake. You need to digest and maybe come back with a freshness, and then you can go back to what you were the best at. But it was the wrong club at the wrong time with the wrong tactic. So for sure, it cannot work.
I think he questioned Marinakis in a sense. Going back to last year for the incident where Marinakis came onto the field and was remonstrating publicly in the manager's face, that was it probably wasn't the start of it, but that was publicly, certainly in front of the cameras, the start of it. And then he questioned, or he talked about Marinakis' role, or lack of, therefore, in recent transfer discussions. And he was almost trying to say that Marinakis didn't care, which I'm sure he does. So once you question somebody who is in their own world so powerful and just can make decisions on a whim, then you're screwed. But I got a sense that by that time, Nuno Espirito Santo was saying these things because he wanted out. That he knew knew the writing was on the wall. Because if he didn't really want out, he wouldn't have said.
Put your head down.
But I think he knew that by saying those things, there would be a parting of the ways. And it was unlikely, bearing in mind they were looking to sell some of the players. They sold Elanga to Newcastle. It was very unlikely that he was going to be able to manoeuvre Forest into the position he did the year before. Not impossible, but very unlikely. And so I think he looked at it and thought, do you know what? We made hay last year while the sun was shining. The owner is a loose cannon. All the stuff going on behind the scenes. I'm going to drop a little grenade here and there and we'll go our separate ways, and nobody can question my stock because we're coming off last year. So in that sense, from him, I think it was probably a smart decision. From Forest, where they've gone, not so much.
Well, see, I was going to go to Beth to find out what the gossip was between Nuno and, of course, the owner at Nottingham Forest. But who needed to when we have Craig Burley, our Nottingham insider?
Well, I didn't talk. None of my mates know what goes on. They're too busy down the pub.
Oh, I love that.
But I was only just looking at what I'd seen and what I'd heard.
But you have your sources in Nottingham. Craig's a big deal in Nottingham.
Sorry, Alexi, but one thing that I want to talk, because we are talking about the pub, and we had a chairman, Craig and I, we never saw in the dressing room was Ken Bates. Never. He was always in the presidential, suite, having a drink, enjoying his time, working with the board, but never bothering a coach. I've seen that in France a lot with chairmen thinking that they are their words, like Bernard Tapie at the time in Marseille. But it cannot work. Those people don't know football. They don't know football. They have nothing to do in the dressing room. It's crazy that we see more and more those coaches, those chairmen, owners, willing to be part of the tactic. No, you know nothing. Just go to the presidential suite, shake hands, have a drink, and let the people, the professionals, doing the work.
Welcome into Extra Time. As promised, Frank is back. I promise no more controversial calls to separate the panel here. Stevie's gone soft anyways. I'm a little surprised, I must say.
Oh, come on.
All right, let's move on then. First question, is Erling Haaland already the best striker the Premier League has ever seen?
Calm down. Seriously.
Oh my God. Next question.
Come on.
We have a list of 20 players we can compete with. Come on.
All right, straightforward. That was the answer right there.
Come on.
A resounding
come on.
no.
Jan Rush, Peter Osgood, and to name a few, what can I say?
Thierry
Arsene
Henry,
Wenger,
Alan Shearer, the list goes on.
Thierry Henry, Jan Wright. Come
Dennis
on.
Law.
What is his name? The name of Manchester United, is that Bulgarian player? Played for Tottenham and Manchester United.
Teddy Sheringham.
Dimitar Berbatov.
No. Berbatov. Come on, Berbatov. Oh my God.
Ruud van Nistelrooy. Mark Hughes.
Yeah.
Have we gotten to 20
Robbie
yet?
Fowler.
Yeah.
Have we got to 20 yet?
Ferdinand.
Didier Drogba.
Oh, yeah. There's your answer.
Robbie Fowler.
Sorry.
Oh my God.
Sorry, still some time for Erling to go. Next question then. Start, bench, drop these Infantino era changes to football.
Can we drop all of them?
The Club World Cup, I already know which one Craig's dropping first. Expanding the World Cup to 48 nations or raising World Cup ticket prices by up to 1,100%.
Wow.
So what's being
Well,
dropped?
I go because I think.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
Because I think about the
I-
fans, raising World Cup ticket
Yeah.
price, it's outrageous
Yeah.
for me. And after the Club World Cup is not a good thing, and expanding the World Cup is not also a good thing. So I don't know. I don't really know, but I'll go for raising, start, expanding, bench, and the Club World Cup. Hopefully it won't exist anymore. Hopefully, I don't know.
In terms of the
So,
worst,
drop.
in terms of the worst, I agree. I think I'd go for raising the prices and fleecing the fans is a scandal, an absolute scandal. And I know FIFA have to make money to pay all the whatever it is around the world, but this is it's just getting too much. It's just a scandal. And as much as I hate the Club World Cup, you can ignore it, but you can't ignore a World Cup.
Yeah.
And to expand, so fleecing the fans, fleecing people for money and cash at a time when it's not easy for a lot of people is a disgrace. Diluting the premier competition in world football, diluting it by more teams is not good. And as bad as the Club World Cup is, we could all put a blindfold on and ignore it. Or you could turn up and play your reserves if you wanted. So that, unfortunately for me, is going to be the third one.
Expanding to 48 ties in with the raising of the prices. Because it means more games, more money.
More games, more money.
It's the same reason behind the first one. So they're as bad as each other.
And where does the Club World Cup stand for you?
No, it's a waste. It's just ridiculous.
I think Chelsea have 10 injuries at the moment, Real Madrid. Man City starting to get injuries. Rodri, who's had his struggles. PSG had 5 of their stars out when they played and beat Barcelona. 4 were out, and João Neves went out just before the game. Is there any coincidence that a lot of these teams and these guys played and had very little rest in the summer?
Next question for Stevie. Stevie, if asked, would you have coached Scotland?
If I was
Craig's
desperate for a
laughing.
job, yeah.
Is that not a headache you want?
If I was desperate for a job, yeah.
What if we gave you a sabbatical to go and do it? Considering the World Cup's been, expanded.
No.
The Rangers job's up for grabs. Russell Martin, 123 days, got absolutely battered from pillar to post.
No.
No?
No. I mean, the Scotland, you can't win. I mean, Stevie Clarke has done the most incredible job, right?
Yeah.
But now, he's getting pelters. If he turns and looks the wrong way, he's getting stick for it. I mean, honestly, you can't win, so no. If I was desperate, yeah. But good common sense would say, no thank you.
He's happy sitting here with us
Yes.
6 days a week, if not more sometimes.
I'm not
All
doing
right.
overtime.
You're not doing overtime?
No.
No.
6 days, no chance.
You just do the extra day for fun.
No,
Because you enjoy our company.
No, I don't. On both.
Learned something new today. Next question then. For the panel, is there a player in world football as versatile as Reece James? We have seen him play right back, left back, right centre back, central centre back, all those right now, for Chelsea, and played very well in every position. Also, who was the most versatile player you all would have played with?
Well, I think Reece James has had, thankfully for him, he seems to be over all those injury niggles that he continually seemed to have. So he's looking quite strong at the moment. Off the top of my head, I don't know who else is you would say is versatile. Is playing the game at the moment. Maybe somebody else would come up with that. Who did I play with that was versatile?
Dan Petrescu, maybe?
I think versatility can be a problem sometimes. Because did you not go from a few positions? I played centre back for Scotland, which I wasn't. I played right wing back for Scotland, which I wasn't. I played central midfield, which was my position. And I think when you're versatile, or you seem to be versatile, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is a good thing. Other times it's not, because you're the guy that gets moved around to fill.
We had a question similar to this last week or 2 weeks ago when me and Ali were on, and the answer I gave was, I always knew that if everybody was fit, I was still going to be in the starting 11.
Yeah.
And so I was able to go and play in all different kinds of positions and do it calmly and be composed about it, because I knew that if it didn't quite work out, I was always going to play.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say about today is the fact that everybody has such big squads. It's kind of a shock that Reece James has ended up having to play 3 different positions. Because when you've got a squad of how many? 34 or something stupid. So I think there's very little opportunity for somebody to be a bona fide guy who will play anywhere on the field, certainly with the best team. So that's probably why we.
Well, actually, I tell you one guy that, and I think probably Frank will agree, having been in this. One of the most versatile people I ever saw was our former colleague and former manager, Ruud Gullit. Well, he was a striker in Italy. He was a centre half. He was a sweeper. You could put him in central midfield because he was a beast.
Yeah.
6'4", fast, strong, skillful. Could go anywhere and did. So yeah, I mean, he was, thinking about that now. He played in every part of the pitch, and he was as good at the back as he was up front.
I think Frank's mate Desai was a bit the same, Frank.
Well, Desai, he never played at front. He was a beast playing for Milan in midfielder.
Yeah, defensively in midfield.
But yeah, he played midfield. But I was naming also Dan Petrescu, who played midfielder, right back, right wing as well. And you had Emmanuel Petit started his career as a left back, then centre back, then he moved to as a midfielder. And that's the guy I would love to play with. I played with the national team. With him, but club-wise, what a player. But it's true, I agree with Craig. Ruud has been throughout his career absolutely versatile and fantastic everywhere. That's pretty hard.
The only trouble was with Ruud when he first came, before Frank was there, the year before Frank was there, Glenn Hoddle and Peter Shreves, who was the coach, who Stevie worked with at Sheffield Wednesday, he's one of football's great characters. Ruud was playing up front, and that was fine because he would stay up front. But then they switched him to play sweeper. I had this idea he was going to play sweeper. But Ruud would still find himself going up front from the sweeper role. And it would, let's just say he had a bit of the, he needed a taxi to get back. And Peter Shreves was shouting on to me to tell Ruud to get back. And I turned to Peter, and I'll miss out the profanities. I just basically said, tell him yourself. Nobody wanted to tell him because he was World Footballer of the Year.
Yeah.
So that became a problem because we were playing this 3 at the back, and Ruud was a sweeper, but he ended up front more often than he was at the back. So in the end, Glenn scrapped it and said, tell you what, just go and stand up there, make yourself a nuisance.
All right, next question. Why do sacked Premier League managers get another job in the Premier League so quickly? If you get sacked in the real world, it usually means you're just not good at your job.
Well,
It's so similar to Ange, what we were talking about.
I think a lot of people...
That's a very good question.
Yeah, they call it retreads, don't they? A lot of retreads, just the same people. And that's part of the problem, that sometimes there's not deemed to be enough quality coaches out there, which I think is wrong.
The same names over and over.
I don't think...
So Mourinho.
It seems to me that Forest did not throw their hat very wide.
Yeah.
No.
You know, they just, you know, Postecoglou, Greek heritage, you know, Marinakis, you know, from Greek, kind of in the news from Tottenham, won a trophy, give him the job. That's
If you get an owner who thinks, I mean, how difficult is this job? If you get one of them, then
You'll get
that's
anybody.
why you end up getting coaches slung in and out, left, right, and centre, because they don't think it's that difficult, and it should be easy enough. I think that's part of the problem.
I remember an old manager, I won't mention his name, I was talking to him and he said he went for a job, it was in the Championship I think, and he got the job and the owner, stroke chairman, said to him, oh, and by the way, I also have my coaching badges. And at this point, the manager and my mate who was his coach looked at each other and said, we're doomed. We're doomed because he thinks he knows more than us.
Yeah.
He's hiring us, but he's already told us that he's done his coaching badges, even though he's probably never played the game. So straight away he's thinking, I know more than them. And that is a bad position to be in.
All right, next question now. For everyone, with Busquets and Jordi Alba retiring, Jordi Alba announcing today that he'll be retiring at the end of this MLS season, have you ever played with an older player whom the whole team felt should hang it up, but they refused to do so or hung on too late? How did the team treat that player, if so? Name them.
No, I don't think so.
Frank?
No, I try to find, no, never happened to me. So no bad experience like that.
What if you were the older player hanging on and everyone was telling you, come on, pack it in?
I think some of my Scotland teammates, when I made my last appearance against Austria at Hampden, I think if you'd asked them, because even this is the one when my dad told me to retire.
Oh.
It was my 46th and last cap, and I knew I was over. So I'm kind of wondering.
You didn't want to push for 50?
No, 50 got you in. Stevie and I have talked about this. 50 got you in the Scotland Hall of Fame. I had no interest. If I got 50, I got 50. But I shouldn't. Why would I hang on?
I got 50.
Why would I hang on?
Just 50.
Yeah. Why would I hang on for another 4 or 5?
To be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I wasn't. But putting yourself through that when you'd played at a much higher level, it's just not. It wasn't for me. No. To join up with a squad and get on for 10 minutes. Because I was lucky, probably like him and others. Whenever I went to Scotland, apart from my first 4 or 5 caps, whenever I went away with the squad, I knew I was playing. I knew I was playing every game. And when it got near the end, it was so bad. I didn't even know if I was going to be in the squad.
I used to think that about Totti. I think Totti was 40 when he stopped.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if you're a Roma fan and you want to look through your Roma glasses, for somebody like him to come on for 10 minutes, as a fan maybe, they think it's great. But for me, sitting watching it, I'm like, no, don't. The bit of watching it was like, you watch somebody like Muhammad Ali getting knocked around the ring.
Oh, but that's different.
There's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than watching somebody who was so good be so bad.
But that's different because.
And I suppose
but it's not different for a football player to sit and watch another football player and to be so fantastic and at the top of the tree, at his best, one of the best players on the football planet.
And then see them struggling.
To come on for
run.
10 minutes just not from a football point of view. It's just not nice to watch. It's not nice to watch.
And on this question, getting away from the older player, there's another one that sort of came to mind. I know we're sort of waffling on now. But that situation, I felt that watching Eden Hazard at Real Madrid, was that...
Don't.
And this was, we're not talking about somebody at 34, 35, we're still talking...
Okay. Well, we know who Muhammad Ali's biggest fan is. Bring him a little closer to the middle.
Don't talk about Muhammad Ali. Don't talk about Muhammad Ali.
Oh,
You're not allowed
not
to,
the
man.
Cassius Clay.
You're not allowed to. Oh my God. Just to mention that, Craig, you play against Brazil the first game of the World Cup.
Yeah.
Our tactic for the last game of the World Cup is to put the pressure on Dunga. Dunga was the captain of Brazil, was almost at the end of his career. And we put everything on him because we knew that he couldn't hold the game like he used to and wasn't the player that he used to be. And we used that, and it worked.
Well, you're a Man United fan, right?
Our tactic was our tactic, Frank, was not to get battered.
Are you going to bring up Cristiano Ronaldo?
No.
Portugal?
No.
Oh, okay.
Casemiro.
Oh, yeah.
Casemiro was absolutely fantastic
another one.
for Brazil, for Real Madrid. And now, is that enjoyable to watch?
No.
No.
No. No. No,
True.
it's not.
True. But never talk about Muhammad Ali.
I love that, Frank. I
Never.
love that. Oh, man, if only the big man were still
How much
here,
you
maybe
pay
we'd
for
arrange
that?
a meeting. Is that an authentic
must have-
signature?
you
Did
must
he
have-
hand deliver that to you, Frank?
He must have had too much wine or champagne and ended up
Oh,
buying
no.
that.
You know, I got it in, as you say, I done it in, oh, come on, when you bet.
Auction.
You bet
An
and you have a
auction.
silent auction. A silent Chelsea auction. I bought
Chelsea
it.
auction, wow.
Oh, because, oh my God, with the signature of the legend. I don't know if you see. Hold on a second. You're gonna
Yeah.
see it. With the signature, I mean, that was insane, and I bought it. Thank you very much.
Oh, I shouldn't have asked how much.
I bet Muhammad Ali, when he was still alive, he also bought at the auction Frank
Leboeuf
Leboeuf winning the World Cup.
Did Frank win a World Cup?
Yeah, sure.
World Cup.
All
sure,
right, well,
sure.
final question, which is in Frank's corner. Frank, start, bench, drop, or sell these French cities for a non-French person to visit. Bordeaux, Lyon, Marseille, or Strasbourg?
Oh, to
What's-
not visit
what's
or to visit.
the
Oh,
worst-
for
visit.
non-French people. Oh
For
my
a
God.
non-French person to visit.
So-
What's the best?
First one, Strasbourg, for sure. Fantastic, small, not a big city. Fantastic.
Really?
You have so many things to do.
Yeah, but that's not the
wine
worst.
is good as well. No, the worst. From start.
You'll start
city for
Strasbourg.
No, the best. Start with the best. So
All
I
right.
start
Yes,
with
yeah.
Strasbourg.
Okay.
I start with Strasbourg because it's a beautiful city. Then Bordeaux for, yes, the wine, but also the city is beautiful, full of history. Then I will go to Lyon because Lyon you have two big rivers, the Saône and the Rhône, and the city is very nice and the food is great. And then I'm sorry, Marseille is
No.
not that great. It's pretty dangerous. So I wouldn't advise to go to Marseille if you don't know anything or anybody.
What about St Etienne?
Oh,
Oh, that's the worst. And the
we've
it's a
learned.
great club. It's a great stadium,
I know
but
that.
the city,
Oh,
it's not.
it's an industrial town, isn't it? I played there twice. It's horrible. Got bad memories.
Yes, it is. It
I've
is.
been to
That's
Bordeaux.
where I got sent off, Stevie. The World Cup.
Bordeaux's great.
But it's not. It isn't a.
No.
No,
it.
it's not a.
It's a
let's go
I
visit
think St
city.
Etienne's an industrial town city. Well, I think it is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
All right, well, that's it for Extra Time. We're all going to start planning trips to Bordeaux now. Because did you know it's cheaper than Paris, but you can
Bye-bye.
still get the vibe. Oh, Muhammad Ali. If only we could get him on the show.
You don't want to do much to do with Paris these days either, by the way.
That's what I said, if only we could.
A bit difficult.
We could do a seance. Seance? No?
Sail.
Okay, no seances for the show.
Listen,
But Craig and
couldn't
Shaq
save
are
some
back
buzz like
tomorrow.
today. isn't it?
I know, I'm letting Stevie get to
You hang about
me.
for a few more years. I
can still say
I could be
Kirkes.
appearing in your seance.
Stop it. God, that's grim.